News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Olivia Calfee.
And now that we are only a few weeks away from the primary election on May 16th, clerk's offices throughout the region are preparing for early voting.
Perry County Clerk Wayne Napier says his staff has added an additional early voting location this year. I spoke with him this morning about his expectations for the election and what people may need to know before heading to the polls to cast their vote. Perry County Clerk Wayne Napier says 19,290 people are registered to vote in the county this year, saying his staff is adding an additional early voting location at the Perry County Public Library.
We just thought that would help out the crowds on election day, give people a chance to come in early and vote. So we just thought it would help the community.
Napier says that early voting begins May 11th and will be open until the 13th. And they decided to add this additional early voting location to also help their office understand what works best in preparation for the presidential election in 2024.
I know when the last president's election, it was crazy for early voting, and we're trying to kind of warm up to the next year presidential election just to see how it goes. So we want to try to have more early voting spots for that.
Voters only have to bring a form of identification, and he says with their new e-poll book system, they are expecting voting to move faster this year.
Driver's license, just anything to show who they are. And we've got new e-poll books, and quick as we bring it up, it shows their location, where they vote, all that good stuff.
And for individuals with an absentee ballot, a drop box is already open for people to cast their votes.
All you have to do is come up the steps, front porch of the courthouse. We have the drop box. Just push this in to drop your ballot. We check it every day. We also have 911 cameras out here, 24-hour surveillance, so you don't have to worry about your ballot when it goes inside.
Napier says that Thursday the 11th and Friday the 12th, the polls will be open for early voting from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they will be open Saturday, May 13th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Well, if you ignore the number at the top of the screen, it looks like an average spring day along the Mountain Parkway at Slade. Plenty of green on the trees, sunshine, just a few fair weather clouds, and then you look up and you see, oh, it's a little chilly. 59 the current rating. A lot of us are on the cooler side. We had this shot from Buffalo Mountain here where you'd see even more sunshine. Temperatures remain plenty warm, plenty cool actually. Middle and upper 50s in many spots. Already seeing some of those lower 50s sneak in. Your forecast first through the evening. Temperatures falling quickly into the 40s once we head past dark, and even cooler than that for tonight. How much cooler? Enough for a freeze warning for many of us east of Interstate 75. Frost advisory elsewhere. That runs through 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So bring the plants inside if you can. If not, try to cover them up if you've already planted, because it looks chilly out there as we head into tonight. I'll have the details on when some showers could return to the region. That's all coming up in a few minutes. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Evan. Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. The media company announced the split in a statement this morning. It came less than a week after Fox News and parent company Fox Corporation settled a defamation lawsuit by Dominion Voting Systems for more than $787 million. Carlson is not the only person to part ways with the national media network today. Longtime CNN host Don Lemon is out at the cable news network.
That announcement came nearly 2 months after he apologized to viewers for on-air comments about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. Now, Lemon posted to social media saying, quote, "I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned." President Biden met with 3 Tennessee lawmakers today who had faced expulsion votes from their state legislature after they joined a protest calling for gun control legislation.
CBS's Nicole D'Antonio reports.
President Biden welcomed Tennessee Representatives Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson to the White House after they spent weeks in a battle over gun control legislation with Republicans in their home states.
We're standing up for our communities, safe communities, and democratic values.
No action, no peace.
The Democratic lawmakers led protests for stricter gun laws at the state capitol following the shooting at a Nashville Christian school that killed 6 people, including 3 children.
Expelled.
The Republican supermajority in the Tennessee House looked to expel them for disrupting proceedings.
Mutiny on the House floor.
Johnson survived by a single vote. Pearson and Jones both were expelled.
We called for you all to ban assault weapons, and you respond with an assault on democracy.
Days later, local officials reinstated both representatives on an interim basis as they continue their advocacy, even bringing an infant-sized casket to the Tennessee Capitol last week. With the controversy getting national attention, the 3 lawmakers were invited to the White House. 2 weeks earlier, Vice President Kamala Harris visited them in person in Nashville to show her support. On Friday, the Tennessee General Assembly rushed to finish its chaotic session, but the state's Republican governor said he will call a special session. He wants them to pass legislation that would keep guns out of the hands of people who could harm themselves or others. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, the White House.
The man who killed Breonna Taylor is back on the force. It's a different one, though. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office has hired Miles Cosgrove. That's about 50 miles away from Louisville, where Cosgrove was working as a detective when he fired 16 shots into Taylor's home. Louisville police fired Cosgrove in January of 2021 for use of deadly force and failing to activate his body camera. But he was never indicted. Cosgrove's attorney says he acted appropriately when he was fired upon during the raid on Taylor's apartment, and he was used as a scapegoat for Taylor's death. Not everyone was happy about Cosgrove's new job. A small group of protesters, which officials say were mostly from Louisville, gathered outside the Carroll County Sheriff's Office this morning. Although he was never indicted in connection to Taylor's death, the incident gained national headlines and added fuel to the Black Lives Matter movement. The U.S. military is positioning resources to be ready should it be needed to help Americans escape war-torn Sudan.
CBS's Nicole Skenga has more from the White House.
The Pentagon says it is deploying 2 U.S. Navy ships near Sudan to potentially help with evacuations.
U.S. Africa Command and the Department of Defense continue to work closely with State Department, which has the lead for helping American citizens wishing to depart Sudan.
Several dozen Americans traveled in a UN convoy from the capital city of Khartoum to Port Sudan in the east.
We have deployed U.S. intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets to support land evacuation routes, which Americans are using, and we're moving naval assets within the region to provide support.
The administration says it is working with foreign partners to help get Americans out now that the U.S. Embassy in Sudan has been evacuated. Saturday, SEAL Team 6 flew out of Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti and refueled in Ethiopia before reaching the embassy. In less than an hour, 87 people had been evacuated, first to Lemonnier, then on to Germany.
I could not be prouder of our team, most of whom are now en route back to the United States.
Violence continues to escalate in Sudan as rival generals battle for power. The State Department says the majority of Americans there are dual citizens who have not asked to leave. Nicole Skenga, CBS News, the White House.
A French citizen was wounded when their diplomatic convoy came under fire while attempting to leave Sudan's capital city, Khartoum. With the evacuation still underway for Americans, some Sudanese civilians are also trying to leave. During a news conference today, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. government is now moving naval assets in the region to provide support. He also said the suspended operations of the U.S. Embassy is only temporary.
We have deployed U.S. intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets to support land evacuation routes, which Americans are using, and we're moving naval assets within the region to provide support. I want to stress that we have only temporarily suspended operations at the U.S. Embassy in Sudan. We fully intend to resume those operations as soon as it is safe to do so. We remain deeply committed to the Sudanese people and to their future.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, kids are sponges, so why not teach them the